Today I want to talk a little bit about the ugly phase. And that is something that I see a lot when I paint in gouache. I was doing a demonstration live here the other day, and I was painting in gouache for the first time in a long time. I was doing a painting of Doechii, who I don't really know them very well, but I like the photo and they seem like a nice person, so I painted them. And when you haven't used a painting material, when you haven't used a medium in a while, there's almost like a little mini learning curve. You have to remember how to use it. And it's been a few months since I've used gouache, and gouache has a very long ugly phase. I think what I like about watercolor is there's really very little ugly phase to it, because you have at least the way I do it, I do inking, and the inking kind of solidifies the beauty of it, and then the watercolors kind of go over that. But with gouache, it gets really ugly really fast. I mean, look at this. This is not pleasant to look at. It's just a blob. But you've heard the term trust the process. That is definitely something that I have to do when I'm working in gouache, is I have to trust the process. The problem is that if you haven't developed a process yet, there's nothing to trust. Me getting to this point of being able to trust that I can get out of the ugly phase is because I got lost in the ugly phase so much that I know my way out. I've made so much bad art that I've learned how to overcome the bad art. I've learned what makes bad art bad and why is it bad. That doesn't mean I still don't make bad art, but it just means that I'm not going to be surprised most of the time. And that's the thing, is I think you need to get lost in the ugly phase from time to time. You need to, as they say, get into the trenches. You need to have those battles with your art. You need to have losses as well as victories to know how to get out of it. And for me, I know that once I do the eyes, I'm okay. It's funny, like knowing that the eyes came out okay, usually I go, okay, I'll be okay. And there might be something in your art that does that for you, that you'll hit that spot where you go, okay, I'm in familiar territory now. And I want you to find that. I want you to find that for yourself. You got to make the bad art. You've got to make bad art. You got to make a lot of bad art until you learn how to fix it, until you learn how to save it, until you learn to know when to throw it away or when to keep going. The ugly phase is scary. And when you're first starting out, a lot of your art never leaves the ugly phase. It's just ugly art. And you throw it away and you move on. And I think that is just a lesson that we need to remind ourselves of. I don't know where you are in your art journey, but we've all been there, and we've all made ugly art, and some of us are still making ugly art, but it's a part of the process. So when they say trust the process, that's what they mean. But now that I'm past the ugly phase, I am in the color phase. I am in the let's look at the photo reference and see where I see greens and purples and blues. And I see them, but it might be because I want to see them, if that makes any sense. Someone was asking me while I was doing this how they can learn how to make art with colors like this. And I think the thing that helped me the most was discovering impressionism, when you look at a Monet, you look at a Van Gogh, and you see the use of color to give the impression of a pond or the impression of a human's face. You're not seeing a photorealistic depiction of it. You're seeing an artistic impression. And I think that was really important for me to learn to let go of photorealism and to just paint what makes me feel good, paint the impression of what I'm seeing. And when you could just throw greens and purples and blues at a face and it feels right and it feels beautiful, I think that's a wonderful place to be. So while you might look at a photo or you might look at your reference and not see any colors other than grays and blacks and whites or tans and just boring colors, it doesn't mean that you can't see it in your own mind's eye or in how you want to see the world. And I think that's the next step for a lot of artists is taking. We learn by seeing the real world. We learn by drawing a house and a cat and a car by looking at it. And some of us get really, really good at doing it. But then at some point we say, but what's the point of me just copying it? What's the point of me just doing what a camera can do? What can I do that a camera can't? And I think that's where caricature comes in. That's where color comes in. That's where surrealism comes in. And so I think if you can look into things like surrealism or caricature or impressionism and have that influence your art, it's a good thing. I feel like my art, when I do gouache, has a lot of impressionism in it. And I like that. When I do watercolors and ink, it has a lot of Art Nouveau and comic books in it. And I like that too. I have different styles based on different mediums. I think each medium has its strengths as well. And for me, gouache painting, I can do impressionism, and I like that. And so now I'm at the point where I am just trying to finish this up. This was only a 90-minute sketch. This was a demonstration. Not nearly enough time to do a fully fleshed out painting, at least for me. And what I'm doing now is I know that I'm not going to be able to sit and noodle the face. I know I'm not going to be able to put in all of the details into the jacket and have a really nice textured background with maybe a stencil or something like that. So I'm just going to add a little bit of graphical imaging. I'm going to use an acrylic marker and I'm going to just do a nice outline. And that makes me happy. I'm going to add some colored pencils and that's going to make me happy. These are little tricks that I've developed over the years that are a little bit from artists that I really like. There was an artist named Drew Struzan who did movie posters. There was another artist named Bill Sienkiewicz who did comic books that you got little scritches and scratches and outlines that I really, really liked. And I took that from them and I added that to my own work. And you don't really see it too much. You'll see the outlines in my watercolors, but you won't see the colored pencils very much in my watercolors. This is something I do with gouache. The background, I tried to just come up with something that would be more than just some splashes of gouache. So I thought I'd put Doechii's name in there, like as if it was almost like neon lights. But as you can see, I am not someone who does lettering. There are people who are really talented at lettering, but this is just me just playing around during a live. So this is a very unserious painting done live in like 90 minutes, and that's okay. That's how we learn. That's how we practice. That's how we get the process that we're supposed to trust, is by doing little 90-minute paintings. every painting we do doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Every painting we do doesn't have to be for show. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think the more we do little practice pieces, the more we do little 90-minute sketches, the more we can explore, we can experiment and have fun. So that's me in a bubble talking about the ugly phase and trusting the process and impressionism and stealing from your idols and painting a little 90-minute painting of Doechii. And I hope you liked it. And I hope you take some of this to heart and you make some bad art with me, because without the bad art, there's no process to trust. There's no mistakes. And without the mistakes, there's no learning how to fix them. So happy painting.